All right, so hi, good evening, Jose. Thanks for being in today's class. I'm going to start the class with you. Is everything okay?
Yes, everything okay. Hi, good afternoon.
Hello. All right, that's good to know, Jose. So let's begin the class. Today we have to start a new unit. Okay, last week it was only about Unit 1, and we're going to check Pearson to verify that. This first unit that I'm showing here, all right, was only for last week. We were learning about these elements maybe, right? We were reviewing all the tenses that we know, present, past, future, and so on. We were learning about yes, no questions, negative yes, no questions, and tag questions as well. And finally, we were learning about infinitives, right? And we learned how to use infinitives as subjects, infinitives after some verbs, and infinitives with some objects. That's what we did last week. Now, this week, we're going to do the following, and I'm going to show you. We need to learn about the passive voice. That's what we're going to do today, passive voice. Some quantifiers or words to talk about quantity. It means a lot of, a few, a little, many, much, etc. And we're going to learn about gerund and infinitive again, all right? Previously, it was only infinitive, but this time it's going to be gerund. And gerund is the verb plus ing. But that's it. Let's begin then with the first lesson. I'm going to show you that I'm going to assign now the second unit, but I'm going to wait until your partners are here. With you, I think I'm going to start this lesson, Jose. This is the passive voice. We're going to start reading and learning about this structure. Let's read the first slide, please, Jose.
Just the first line?
Yes, all the slides. Everything that is there, please.
Okay. Voice in English expresses the relationship of the subject to the action. Voice has two values. Active, the subject does the action. Passive, the subject receives the action.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. And sorry, I'm kind of sick now. All right, I was very sick these days, so I'm like with some medicaments and some things. All right, that's why I'm going to be speaking a little bit strange. All right, but these two words. Let's check these two words, please, Jose. Active and passive. Only the stress. The stress is going to be in the first part. This one active, and this one passive. Let's read these two once again, please.
Active and passive.
Okay, there you go. Thank you very much. Now we know that we have two types of voices, right? The active voice, the subject does the action, and the passive voice in which the subject receives the action. And we're going to analyze that with this element over here. Here we have two sentences, right? And we are going to analyze what's happening with these sentences. Sorry, my mouse, I think, just stopped working. Give me a second, please. All right. I don't know what happened. Okay, good. So the first sentence is this one, and you're going to help me out with the sentence, please. Jose, the first sentence, and tell me if the subject is giving or receiving the action. What do you say?
Receiving the action.
All right, let's read the first sentence then, please. Let's verify if it's receiving the action.
Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. Hamlet wasn't written by Shakespeare.
Okay, so in this case, the first sentence is Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, right? What is the subject in the first sentence? Shakespeare wrote Hamlet.
Shakespeare.
Okay, good. In this first sentence, is Shakespeare receiving one action or is it doing one action?
Receiving.
Okay, why do you believe that Shakespeare is receiving one action? What is the reason?
Because it's in the past.
Okay, but if it's in the past, for example, do you receive the action? If you say, for example, I wrote a book, Am I receiving the action or am I doing the action of writing the book in the past? Right? It's the same case over here. Shakespeare wrote because he is doing that action. He was doing that action. He did that action, right? It doesn't matter if it's present, past, or future. If it says that Shakespeare wrote, right? Nobody is doing something to Shakespeare, right? Shakespeare is doing something or was doing something that was writing, and of course in past. So it's doing the action, right? Shakespeare is not receiving the action, is doing the action, and the action is writing Hamlet, right? But here, let's analyze this one. Let's read this once again, please, Jose.
Hamlet was written by Shakespeare.
Okay, now here, what is the subject? Hamlet, right? And in this one, is Hamlet doing the action or receiving the action?
Doing.
Okay, and if we analyze this one, it says was written. Anytime you read this structure, it means that this is passive voice. Okay, was written means that Hamlet is not doing any action. Hamlet is receiving the action. And what is the action that is receiving? That Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. All right, so we're going to analyze that one by one, and we're going to understand these together. Look, we're going to write an example here. We have a new document that is over here. I'm going to send the link via chat, Jose, so that you can join, and it's over there. All right, so the link is in the chat. Now, in the first part, I'm going to write two very simple, okay, very, very simple examples. And I'm going to say this one, all right? Luis buys, all right, I don't know. It's going to be just like that Luis buys a hamburger, and it's present, right? Every night, we're going to say, or just buys a hamburger. This is active voice. Why? Because Luis buys a hamburger, right? Luis is active. Luis is doing one action, buys. How do you think that you can change this sentence to passive voice, Jose, so that we change the subject and the subject receives the action? Now the subject, Luis, is doing the action. How do you change this to passive voice, Jose? What do you think?
Hamburger was bought by Luis.
Okay, very good. A hamburger. What is the verb once again? A hamburger?
Was.
Okay, then?
Was by or bought.
Okay, good. I think that's way better. Bought?
Bought by Luis.
Okay, very good. I think we're very close. It's like 90% correct, and it's very good. Only one thing is a little bit different. What is this tense? Luis buys a hamburger. Is this present or past? This sense. All right. Now the rule says that if the main sentence is present, the active voice, the verb to be has to be, all right, in present as well. How do you think that we can change then?
A hamburger is.
Very good. Bought by Luis. Correct. Exactly. So here, Luis does the action, is active. And here, the subject, a hamburger, receives the action, right? It happens the same over here. Here, Shakespeare, right, does or did in the past, did the action. And here, Hamlet received the action by Shakespeare. All right, so good. I think you get it very well, Jose. This is going to be an easy lesson, but let's continue. We have some examples with active voice. Let's read this one, please.
The active voice is the normal voice, the one that we use most of the time. In the active voice, the object receives the action of the verb.
Good. And what is the example that we have?
Cats eat mice.
Okay, very good. Exactly. So this is active. Why? Because we have subject, verb, object, and the object is receiving the action, right? The subject is doing the action and the object is receiving the action that the subject is doing. That is active. Let's go now to, actually, let's start working here, Jose. Let's go to the document, please. And we are going to write, let's say, 2 active voice examples. All right, let's go to the document and let's write 2. One has to be in present. All right, it can be simple present, present continuous, it's up to you. And the other one is going to be in past. Could be simple past or past continuous.
Okay.
Let's do it. Okay, perfect. And David, I'm sending the link once again. It's in the chat. All right, there you go, David. So what we're doing is we're learning about passive voice. We learned more or less how to identify and how to transform active voice to passive voice. However, that's something we're going to cover later on in this presentation. In the meantime, we're doing the following, please, David. We are going to that link. We're looking for our names and we are writing 2 examples in active voice, one in present and one in past, please. The sentences can be simple as this one, but you need all these elements, please, David. You need subject, for example, cats. You need a verb, eat, and you need, and this is very important, one object. If you don't have one object, it's going to be impossible to change it to passive voice. Let me know if you have any questions, please, David. If not, let's work on those 2 examples, please. Okay, very good. We only need 2. If you want to write more, it's okay, because we're going to need to experiment later on, all right, with more tenses so that we are sure that we know how to change from active voice to passive voice, all right? In the meantime, let's only read what you got. I'm going to start with you, please. David, let's read your 2 examples, please.
Okay. The first one is Maria plays the piano.
Very good. And the other one?
The other one is I ate chocolate. A chocolate.
Good, exactly. I would say only chocolate or a piece of chocolate could be, but I think it's working good. It can be like that, but only if you say chocolate could be even better. It depends on how you're showing that element, that food, because sometimes it can be countable or uncountable, all right? But I think it works like that a bit. Thank you very much. All right, good. Jose, what about you? Let's read your sentences. Let's read all of them, and we're going to work with only 2 in the next examples.
Carlos plays soccer. Soccer is played by Carlos. I cooked pizza. Pizza was cooked by me.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, you already worked in the second part. That's good, all right? We're going to verify the second part, but now I'm only going to check the active voice, all right? Because it was only the active voice now. Carlos plays soccer, very good. And then we have a cooked pizza. That's perfect. In the second part, I'm going to ask you to work with the passive voice, and you're going to verify if it's okay, all right? Thank you, Jose. And in the meantime, Fabiana, I'm going to go to the next part. But if you want, you can write 2 examples as your partners are doing. The link is in the chat, Fabiana. So as I'm explaining the passive voice, that I think that you get very well, all of you. Well, as I'm doing it, you can write those examples. All right, the link is in the chat once again. Let's go to the passive voice that actually we already mentioned, but let's see what we need to do. Please, David, this is going to be for you. Let's read passive voice.
Mice are eaten by cats.
All right, and also let's read the definition up there, please.
Sorry. The passive voice is less common in the past voice. It's less common, sorry. In the past voice, the subject received the action of the verb.
Thank you very much, David. So it's the same, right? We have one subject, we have verb, and we have object. However, in this case, different to the previous one, here the subject is doing one action and the object is receiving. Over here, the subject is receiving the action and the object is doing that action. All right, so it's very weird, but it's only inversion, right? You are changing positions and you are making now the previous object to be the subject and do the action. So let's do that, please. Let's work with this. Jose, you already did it, so you can check only if you want. But David and Fabiana, your passive, your active voice sentences now need to be changed to passive voice. Change them in the way you believe that they can be changed, because later on we're going to learn how to do it. Now I want you to do it by yourselves, please. All right, let's try to do it, please. Change your active voice sentences to passive voice sentences by using the elements that you see over here. All right, so let's do it, please. All right, most of you got it, so I'm going to start with both of you, please, David and Jose. But I think, David, let's begin with you. Let's read your sentences and let's read the passive voice of your sentence, please.
Okay. Maria plays the piano. The piano is played by Maria. I ate a chocolate. A chocolate was eaten by me.
Thank you very much. I think I have no observations. Thank you, David. Great. Jose, what about, well, you already read your examples. I'm just going to check. You're working with present in the first part, plays, and you're saying is played. Good. The only thing, remember, in Pearson, this is going to be very important, this capital letter, right? The rest of it is very good. Then I cooked, that past, and pizza, okay, good, was cooked by me. I have no observations again, Jose. Thank you very much. And we are going to finish with you, Fabiana. You're still working on the last part, but please, let's read what you got so far.
Okay, teacher, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, I have problems with my internet. Okay, Fabiana plays the guitar. A guitar is played by Fabiana. And 2, I prepared a delicious salad, and a salad is prepared by me.
All right, now let's analyze this one. Here, you may keep the if you want the article. The guitar is played by Fabiana, so you can keep the same idea, right? And the same words. Saying is not incorrect, but my advice would be to keep the same article. And here, this is present, correct? And each played is the passive voice of present. Good. But here, my only observation here, Fabiana, is that as this is past, I prepared, then you're going to change the verb to be to simple past as well. What is the simple past of is?
Was.
Okay, very good, exactly. And we can try to keep the same idea. So you can say a delicious salad was, right? And the rest of the information, Fabiana, right? Was prepared by me. We know, right? We know that we don't need to set, for example, by me, but this is just for practicing. Okay, this is just for practicing, so it's very good. Great, there you go. Thank you, Fabiana. I think that's going to be it. Great. Now, again, I'm not asking you yet if you have any questions because you're doing this with the knowledge that you have. And I see that you understand the passive voice very well. All right, you know very, very well the passive voice. However, we're going to try to see if we can work with any tense. And that's going to be the challenge. And we're going to start working together by doing the following. First, this is the formula that you all need to have. And I think that you do. But just to be sure, you always need what? The subject, of course, plus the auxiliary verb, that is the verb to be, is, was, has been, have been, had been, right? Will be, is going to be, etc. The main verb in the past participle. That's very, very important, right? Always the past participle of the main verb. And then you may add or not an agent. That's optional, right? That's where it's with a different color. You may or you may not add an agent. Now here we have some examples in different tenses, and we're going to start doing this together. Please, Fabiana, you're going to start reading the first 3 sets of examples until, sorry, it's not that one, this one. Until that part, please, Fabiana, let's read those examples.
Okay. I am employed by Apple. You will be working at 6. It will have been finished by then.
Thank you very much. And the next part, please, Jose, the last 3 examples.
We have been notified by head office. You are being transferred next week. They will be paid.
Thank you very much, Jose. Now, we're going to start working together. As you can see, the verb to be can be in any tense. And this is what defines your tense. The verb to be is going to tell you if you are in present, future, right? Future perfect, if you are in present perfect, or if you're in the present continuous, or even the past perfect models, and so on and so forth, all right? The verb to be is going to tell you the tense. Why? Because the main verb is always going to be in the past participle. So you don't know the tense by taking a look at the main verb. No. Employed, woken, finished, notified, transferred, paid. It's always the past participle. However, the verb to be is different. All right, the verb to be is different. Now we're going to do the following. We're going to work together like this. One of you is going to give me an active voice in the tense that I'm going to ask you, and one of your partners is going to change that one to passive voice. And now it's only going to be speaking. All right, only going to be speaking. So I'm going to start with you actually, Fabiana. Try to give me one active, all right, active, not passive, one active sentence using the present perfect, please. And remember that in the present perfect, we use have or has plus the main verb in the past participle. Right? Give me one active sentence, and let's remember that in the active sentence, sorry, just to verify and to be sure, we always need one object. All right, we need one object that is receiving the action. What do you say, Fabiana? What your sentence could be?
Maybe I don't remember. How do you say reparar?
That can be in many ways, can be fix or repair. It depends what you want to say. You said that word, right? Fix or repair. What do you want to repair or fix?
I want to repair a telephone.
Okay, it can only be fix. Fix is a regular verb.
Okay. The participle of this verb is fixen.
Yes, if it's regular, it's only going to be with ed, the simple past and the past participle.
Okay. Maybe I have fixed a telephone.
Okay, I have fixed a telephone. Okay, I think that works, Fabiana. So repeat that once again for your partners, please. What is your sentence once again?
I have fixed the telephone.
Okay, the telephone. All right. Thank you, Fabiana. Now that's going to be for you, please, David. What is the passive voice of Fabiana's example? What do you say?
Maybe the telephone was fixed by Fabian.
Okay, we're very close. Only one detail is not correct over there because of the grammar rules that we have. What is the tense that Fabiana is using? She's using the present perfect, right? And in your passive voice, you are using the simple past of the verb to be.
Yes.
Right? So we have to use, if we take a look at this, the verb to be is telling us what is the tense that we are in. So what change can you make to that one, David, to make it exactly the same as Fabiana was saying, but in passive voice?
The telephone have been fixed by Fabiana.
Okay, good. Only one little detail. As you're talking about the telephone, it's not going to be have been, it's going to be has been. Right? Third person. Okay, yes. Very good, David. So it's going to be the telephone has been fixed by Fabiana, right? Good. All right, only be careful with that one. The way you organized and the way you conjugate the verb to be is telling us if you are or you are not respecting the main idea in the active voice. So now it's for you, please, David. Try to give me one. It's not going to be, I think, that complicated in this tense, but let's try to do it. Give me one active sentence, all right, one active sentence in the continuous form, in the present continuous.
I am working at a factory.
Okay, now let's analyze that one. The sentence is correct, grammatically speaking is correct, but do we have an object that is receiving the action? Or are we missing that one? Because if you say, I am working at a factory, the factory seems to be the place, but I think that the factory is not receiving the action, right? It's not receiving the action. You need one verb that gives direct, all right, direct influence and that receives direct influence from your action. What do you say?
I am repairing a machine, maybe.
Very good, exactly. And if you want, you can add later on any kind of place, right, at a factory. But good, I am repairing a machine. All right, I am repairing a machine. Thank you very much, David. That's going to be for you, Jose. How can you change David's example to passive voice?
Using I am or he.
You can use the third person. You can say David if you want.
Okay. The machine is fixing by David.
Okay, we're not that far. But if you say is fixing, then it's not going to be passive voice because it seems that the machine is doing something actively, right? Something is missing. What do you say? Again, I'm going to show you the example over here. So, I am a machine, right? That's David's sentence. And that's active voice. Now you're saying that the machine could be, or you can keep that machine, right? The machine is fixing. Now, if you do that, you are telling me that the machine is actively doing something and is not receiving the action. It's fixing by it, all right? So again, look, it's a mistake. What do you think that you need to do here, Jose, to change this and to make this passive? Remember the rule? I'm going to show you once again. Over here. The rule says you need the subject. You have it, correct? The auxiliary be. I think you have it, but something is missing with your verb to be. And then you need the main verb in the past participle.
Okay.
All right, the past participle of your verb. So what do you think is missing over here?
The machine was fixed by David.
Okay, let's try. What change are you doing with fix? You're changing that to ed, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just give me a second. I changed the battery. Okay, good. Now, and you said was. We're going to do it. Now, I believe that it's correct now, but something is out of place because David's sentence is in the present continuous, but yours, the passive voice is in the simple past. How do we fix that one? All right. And of course, instead of fix, we're going to use repair. And we're going to say repaired, right? But it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay. So, but what do you think you need to change with the verb to be?
Instead was, could be had been.
Okay. Can you give me had been? You're saying H-A-D?
Yes.
All right. And this one. Okay, but this one, what is this tense? Who can tell me the name of this tense? Have been. Because it's also, okay, was repaired is correct. Have been repaired is correct. But now you are in the past perfect.
Yes.
Okay, this is the past perfect. And this is for a different context, right? So again, we are okay, but we are not in the tense that we need. What do you think that we need to change? We don't need had been to make this the present perfect. I'm going to help you out. That one was okay, but you need one more word. What do you think is that one more word? If it's the present continuous, you need the verb to be in the continuous form. What is the continuous form of the verb to be, Jose? What do you think?
Being.
Being, exactly. All right, it can be weird. This is not common, but in active voice, it's actually going to be okay. All right, so whenever you have the present continuous, you always need is or are, and you need the verb be in the continuous form, which is going to be being with ing. All right, so the machine or a machine is being repaired by David, right? One more, and this is going to be now you, Jose. Give me please one, okay, one active voice sentence in the, let's say, it's okay, in the simple past, please, Jose. One active voice in the simple past.
I did my homework wrong.
Okay, I did my homework. You can say wrongly. Okay, good. I did my homework wrongly. Thank you, Jose. That's going to be for you, Fabiana. How can you change Jose's example to passive voice?
Maybe the homework was done wrongly
Okay,
by
very good.
Jose.
By
Also,
Jose, okay.
the work
It's okay.
was done wrongly by Jose.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Fabiana. Yes, the homework, right? The homework was done. And why was? Because we are in the simple past. Done is the past participle of do, right? Or did in that case. And then you are going to use wrongly as an adverb, right? You do something wrongly, right? Something is wrong, but if it's an adverb, you need ly, wrongly. So good. The homework was done wrongly by Jose. Okay, thank you very much, Fabiana. So that's it with the speaking practice. Now, before going to writing, first let me know if you have any questions so far, because the last part is only going to be writing some examples, all right? And I think you're going to have everything with it. And we're going to learn in which cases we're going to need an agent and in which ones we do not need an agent. And we're going to work with examples as well, all right? So do you have any questions? Let me know, please, if you do have questions so far.
Teacher, I have a question, or maybe
Yes.
an affirmation. The auxiliary verb be always have the same time of active voice.
Yes, if you're...
Sorry?
Go ahead, please, Fabiana.
If I have present continuous, I change the verb to be of present, in present continuous, no? And
Correct.
the same for others.
For any tense, exactly. Not any time, Fabiana, of course. You don't need to write first the active voice and then the passive voice. Now it's for practicing. But in case you have to change, right, your active voice sentence to passive voice because you want to be very formal, because this is for academic writing sometimes, right? And if you need to use passive voice for scientific and academic and formal writing, then you have to use, all right? You must use the same tense. If the tense is the present continuous, as you're saying, right, the verb to be is the one that is going to show you that you are in the present continuous. That's why with Jose, we needed to change that to is being with ing. And the same, any tense. If it's future with will, the verb to be has to be will be. If it's future with be going to, it's going to be is going to be or are going to be. It depends if it's singular or plural, all right? But we always respect the same tense.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
All right, great, you're welcome. And that's it. As you can see, this is a very simple exercise. But now that you are here, I was telling this to Jose, I was waiting for all of you to be here. So remember that it's important to work on Pearson. I see that all of you, all right, all of you have a very good level in English. So you shouldn't have any problems, all right? You shouldn't have any problems here. Actually, it should be the opposite. This should be like a piece of cake for you, all right? So try to take advantage because Pearson is not hard. Everything that we learned and that we are learning in class is going to be part of Pearson. But Pearson also gives you some other elements. My recommendation is that now I'm going to assign the second unit. It's the same. It's today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's the time that you got. Friday is the last day to take and to complete all assignments for Unit 2. And Friday is going to be the day in which I'm going to assign the second quiz. And it's going to be the same every week. So please, my recommendation, because not all of you, as you can see here, these are your scores so far. It's not bad. I think it's okay because we only need like 50.1 to go to the next course, right? But I believe that you can do it better because of the level that I see and that I know that you have. So in order to improve your scores, if you want to improve your scores, please remember that now I'm going to assign the second unit and you can start, all right, with these exercises now. If you have some questions, it's better if you start doing this now, and the next class you can ask me the questions that you have. My recommendation again, and as I was telling you, please be careful with some periods, be careful with capital letter and those details. Because if you're doing your exercises and they are good, but you are not using periods and you're not using capital letters, then they may be corrected as incorrect. All right. And I cannot control that. That's something that is automatic. That's something that Pearson does. And in a certain way, I agree with that because in A13, we need to write very well. So please try to take a look at that. Be careful with those details. If you have any questions about Pearson, let me know. But what I'm doing now, and I'm showing you, I'm assigning the second unit. All right. That's the entire second unit. Resources is there for you to know what you're going to learn and so on and so forth. But actually something that you don't need to complete, right? But anyhow, I'm showing you that I'm assigning this to all of you and that you have again until Friday at 11:59 p.m. You always have 2 attempts. So even with this, imagine, I know again that you have the level that you need and you have 2 attempts. So if you do this before, you have the chance of taking some of these activities once again to improve your scores. And I'm sure that if you want, it's very easy for you to get 100 in all of these assignments. And that's it. All right, so please take that into account. The second unit is there. The only thing you need to do is go to assignments and start completing everything that you have over there. All right, and also, of course, this is not your course now, but I'm going to show you this one. All right, that's the first thing. The other one, again, I'm just going to show you this once again. Be sure that you check this very frequently because in this case, you know how you're doing. Look that now you have 83 in total because I added the second unit. All of you, well, only one of you didn't take the quiz, the first quiz. It's not going to be possible to reassign it unless management tells me to do it, and it's going to be for 50%, all right? But that's only if you had some permission in order not to take it. If not, continue working. Remember again that all these activities are for the week until Friday, and on Friday, I'm going to assign the second quiz again. That's it related to Pearson. If you have any questions related to it, let me know, please.
I have a question. Why my
Yes.
score is 0%?
Here is because you didn't take the quiz, Jose. According to this, is because you didn't take the first quiz. The quiz was assigned on Friday and was to take it Friday, Saturday, and until Sunday maximum.
Okay.
All right, it was the first quiz. It's going to be the same this week, Jose. Remember the calendar. Now the second unit is going to be until this Friday, and on Friday I'm going to assign the second quiz, and it's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday again, so that you can take the second quiz whenever you have time. All right. Okay.
And
good.
where can I find this quiz?
It's here. I was showing you that on.
Yes.
It's the same. Just go down. All right. The only difference, Jose, is that instead of having this little circle with arrows, you have like a check mark. You have this one. Okay. It's like that. It's like a check mark inside the paper. That is going to be the quiz. And actually, I'm going to show you. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to show you the quiz if it's assigned here. If not, again, the only thing you have to do to recognize the quiz here, Jose, is that you look, you go down, and the only difference is that, well, actually it's not going to be here. But I'm going to do something so that you see it. I'm going to assign the quiz now, all right, so that I don't forget. I'm going to assign the second quiz, but I'm going to do it so that it's active starting Friday. Look. And I'm going to show you in this way, all right, so that you can see it. Assign. So look, I can assign this to anybody, and the start date is going to be not immediately, it's going to start on Friday. All right, and it's going to be at 0000 more or less. They don't let me do that, so AM. Okay, from that time, they don't let me. It's going to be weird, so from 1 a.m. Okay, it's going to start, all right, 1 a.m. on Friday, and it's going to be until Sunday at 11:59 p.m. All right, that's the second quiz. Now, in your quiz, you only have 50 minutes to complete the quiz, all right? So once you open the quiz, you only have 50 minutes. And that's it. Now, let me show you how it's going to appear over here. You go to assignments. Of course, here you also have a filter. You can look for that specific filter over there, and you go down, all right? First, these are the activities that you need to complete. Try to do them, try to finish them first. And then when you finish them until Friday, you can work with this one. This is the test. All right, this is the test over here. It's not that different. As you can see, Jose, the only difference is that instead of having this sign, this circle and so on, it has a check mark, and the name is the following. All right, model A2, and it says review quiz integrated skills. So that's going to be available for you to complete starting on November the 26th. All right, and it can be taken until November the 28th, which is going to be Sunday. Okay, do you have any questions about that? Let me know, please.
Okay.
Great, there you go. So that's it. Please, again, be careful. Try to complete everything on time so that you don't have any problems with it. And that's it with Pierce. I'm closing then this platform, and we are going to continue with this in a certain way, because we almost finished everything. Now we're going to learn when to use the, first we're going to talk about the thing that you were telling me, Fabiana, and then when or when not to use the agent. So from active to passive voice, this is going to be for you, please, David. Let's read all the information that we have here, please.
Okay, teacher. The verb to be is in the passive voice must have the same tenses as the active voice. Peter buys a car. A car is bought by Peter. Peter bought a car. A car was bought by Peter. Peter has bought a car. A car has been bought by Peter. Peter will buy a car. A car will be bought by Peter.
Thank you very much, David. So this is the same that I was telling you before, right? If it's simple present, this has to be simple present, is. Simple past, was. Present perfect, has been. Future with will be. All right? Any tense that you use, any model that you use has to be the same with the passive voice, and it's noticed in the verb to be. All right, that's just to reinforce. Now, when to use the passive voice. All right, when to use the passive voice. And we're going to write examples related to it. Let's read the first case, please. Actually, let's read both cases. Fabiana, let's do it, please.
Okay. When to use it? We want to emphasize the receiver of the action. President Kennedy was killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. Act. Lee Harvey Oswald killed President Kennedy. We don't know who did the action. The agent? My wallet has been stolen. Act. Somebody has stolen my wallet.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. Now, we're going to do the following. We're going to go to the file. We're going to write two examples. One example with the first explanation and one with the second one. It means in the first example, you need to tell me in a certain way that you are putting emphasis in the receiver of the action, and you need to explain why. All right. And in the second part, it's something that is related to perhaps you don't know who did the action. In this case, the agent, like someone who stole from you. But it can be simply because you don't want to mention. But let's try to work with both. All right. Go to the file and write two examples, one for each. You're going to read and you're going to tell me why you believe it goes with the first and why you believe that it goes with the second explanation. Let's do it, please. All right, so we're going to start checking now in a while, but remember, your first example is going to be about this. We don't want to emphasize, or we want to emphasize the receiver of the action. So in this example, President Kennedy was killed by Lee Harvey, right? And you need to explain that. In this case, It's because present Kennedy is very important or was very important. That's why we prefer to emphasize, right, on the receiver. And in the second one, we don't know who did the action. For example, my wallet has been stolen. Of course, it's somebody, but we are not going to say, all right, somebody has stolen my wallet. No, it's not necessary. My wallet has been stolen. And in the second case, you don't use the agent, right? Remember in this example, you don't use an agent for the second example, only the first part of your passive voice. Okay, so with that explanation, let's check what you got. I'm going to start taking a look at your examples. And let's say that this time, okay, Jose, I think you have both. Let's read your examples, please.
Jose was called by his brother. Jose's brother called him.
All right, the first one is passive voice, yes, but the second one is not passive voice, right? And perhaps you are doing the same, right? This is the active voice. So when you have one. Which one is the example for, Jose? Is it the example for number one? We want to emphasize the receiver of the action. And why? You have to tell me why. Or number two, we don't know who did the action or the agent. What is that for? The first one or the second?
First one.
All right. Why, in your case, why do you believe that it was more important, or why did you decide to put more emphasis on the receiver of the action?
I don't know.
Right? It can be something that you decided, right? It doesn't have to be because it's President Kennedy or I don't know, right? It can be something that you decided. And you may say, because I had to say that I was going to receive that call, right? That I was called by my brother, because people wanted to know that I was called by my brother. All right. So one more is missing, please, Jose. Try to work on the second one as well. You don't need to write the active voice, only write the passive voice of the second type, please, in which you don't know who did the action. All right, work on that one, please, and we're going to go back. David, let's work with you're still doing, I think. Yes, Fabiana, I'm going to work with you, or are you ready, David? Let me know.
No, I was saying that I didn't understand well exactly what we have to do. I didn't understand the difference between the other examples.
Okay, actually, let me explain that, David. Thank you. There's no difference, all right? The only thing that we are doing is that we are learning when to use passive voice. Because, of course, we are not going to use passive voice anytime. And we are learning that we have many situations in which we can use passive voice. The first situation is this one, when you want to put more emphasis on the receiver of the action. For example, this. This is the best example. I'm going to write it like this. Give me a second. This is the best option here, David. Why? Because President Kennedy is receiving the action, but President Kennedy is more important than Lee Harvey Oswald. All right. Why? Because, of course, we're talking about this very famous president. So this is the first case in which you use passive voice. When you have an object or a person that is more important and you are putting more emphasis on the receiver of the action. So you have to give me one example in which you show me that you can set something important as the receiver of the action and that the emphasis is in that receiver. All right, that's the first one. Then we are also learning that we use passive voice when we don't know who did the action. For example, this is the best option, the first one, right? You don't say, or you can say, this is active voice. Somebody has stolen my wallet. It's okay. But if you don't know, right, who's that somebody, then you can use passive voice. My wallet has been stolen. You don't know who's the agent. You don't know who did it. So that's another situation in which you can use passive voice because you don't need to set the agent and because it's not important, mention it, not that you don't know. All right, so these are two cases only, David, in which you use passive voice. When you want to put emphasis on the receiver, like in this case, President Kennedy, or when you don't know who did it. For example, my wallet has been stolen by a thief, but you don't need to say that. All right, so it's only that, David. I don't know if it helps a little bit. Let me know, please.
No, now it's clear, teacher.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to go then with you, Fabiana. Let's try to read what you got. And again, it doesn't have to be like President Kennedy, right? We're not talking about famous people, but it depends on you. And it depends on you in the sense that you're going to tell me why you decided to put emphasis on the receiver. All right, so let's read your examples, please.
Okay, Susana's heart was broken by Pedrito and his toy has been broken.
Okay, good. Let's explain now. In the first one, why did you decide, all right, why did you decide to set Susana's heart as the emphasis of your idea? And in the second one, tell me why the second one applies to the second example. I believe that both are okay, but I want to hear your explanation, please, Fabiana.
In second, we don't know who broke this toy, and we have this affirmation. And the first example, we have emphasized in Pedrito, and we can use only Susana was broken. For this reason, I use Susana's heart. But I have problems with my first example, but I'm not sure if it is correct.
I think it's great, all right? I think it's great. But again, my only question is that you said something, but I believe that is the opposite. You said that the emphasis of your first idea is Pedrito, but my question is that really the thing, Fabiana, or do you believe that the emphasis of your first sentence is Susana's heart? What do you believe is the emphasis of your first sentence? Susana's heart or Pedrito?
Maybe Susana's heart.
Right? Yes. The subject that is receiving the action, all right, is the one that has the emphasis. And you use the passive voice when you want to say that the subject that is receiving the action is more important than the agent. All right? Anytime. You use the passive voice when you believe that Susana's heart, in this case, is more important than Pedrito, because you can simply do this and your sentence is still okay. And Pedrito can be any guy, right? Can be Pedrito, Jose, David, Luis, it doesn't matter. But you're telling me that Susana's heart being broken is the most important element here. And that Pedrito or any guy over there is something secondary that we don't care as much as we care for Susana's heart. All right, that's the idea of using passive voice, Fabiana. If you decide to use passive voice, you're telling me that this is more important than this one. In other words, all right, and that's why I believe it's okay. It's very good. And in this case, I agree with you. We don't know who did that action, so his toy has been broken. By whom? We don't know, or we don't care. In this case, we don't know, so we omit the agent. Right? So that's it. I don't know if it's clear, this part in which you decide that whatever you put in the subject of your passive voice is the idea, the person, or the object that you believe is more important, even more important than the agent. That's why you decided to mention that at the beginning of your idea. All right. Do you have any questions about that? Let me know, please.
I have a question about first. How is the correct form for change this sentence?
One more time, please, Fabiana. I didn't get your question.
Sorry. What is the correct form? Sorry. Which is the correct form for change this sentence?
But actually, it's okay. Why do you want to change this one? The first one, you're telling me?
Yes.
It's okay. No, I'm just telling you that it's okay. It's perfect the way it is. You don't need to change it. In which way do you want to change this, Fabian? I don't get it.
Maybe for emphasize Pedrito.
If you want to emphasize Pedrito, then your sentence has to be in active voice. All right? And you're going to say, if you believe that Pedrito, all right, is the main character of your story, and you believe that Susana's heart is only another girl, let's put it that way, all right? In your story, Pedrito is the guy, all right? And Susana is just a girl. So you can say, right, Pedrito, sorry. Then this is past, right? Simple past. So you can say that it's like that. Broke Susana's heart, right? And that's it. If you do that, you're telling me that Pedrito is more important. That's the only logic, all right? If you use passive voice, Susana's heart is more important in the idea that you want to transmit. If you use active voice, you're telling me that Pedrito is more important. The action that Pedrito is doing is more important than Susana receiving that action and suffering from what's happening. Okay? Okay. Good. Very good. Thank you very much. And let's finish this up with you, please, David. Let's do the same. Let's read both. And then you can explain a little bit why you decided to set it that way.
Okay. David was attacked by a robber, and my piece of pizza has been eaten.
Very good. I agree with both. I believe that they are very well done. Now, again, it's not because there's a general reason, but in your words, why do you believe the first one goes with the first explanation and the second one with the second one, please?
Maybe because I emphasizing that David was attacked, but I didn't say the name of the robber. It's just a robber.
Very good.
The second one was my piece of pizza has been eaten, but I don't know who was the one that ate my pizza.
Very good. Great. I think I have no observations, David, and it's very well explained. Do you have any questions about this part of the passive voice? Let me know if you do, please. No?
No.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. And we can finish with you once again, Jose. We can read what you got and let's see how it works.
I'm sorry. I think it's wrong, but I'm going to read it. And he had been watching a movie tonight. The movie hasn't been ended.
Thank you very much, Jose. So in the second one, I think it can work. The movie hasn't been ended. In a certain way, yes, someone can do it, and you don't know who did it. So the second one could work, all right, because you don't know who ended up the movie, or in a certain way, we're going to try to understand that. But in the first one, that's active voice. How do you change that one to passive voice, Jose? What do you say? Because the first one was okay. But in this one, it's the subject, had been watching. This is what we call, this is the past perfect continuous, all right? It's not passive voice. This is the past perfect continuous. We don't know about this tense yet, but if you want to change this to passive voice, you need first the object to be the subject. What is the object? The movie. Right? So we're going to say a movie, and you're going to tell me in this case that a movie is more important than him, and it's correct. It can be said that way. A movie, then let's try to use the same tense. What do you think I need here?
Has been.
All right. Now, as this is the past perfect, we don't know this tense yet. All right. We haven't learned this tense yet. We're going to do it in the future. But actually, we need to keep the idea of had, because that's the tense. All right. That's the tense, the past perfect. So a movie had. What else do you think that we need over here? I'm going to help you out. Been.
Have been.
And this is weird, all right? What's going to happen is weird, but it has to be this way. What is the what is the continuous form of the verb to be?
Being.
All right. And then what is the past participle of the main verb, in this case, watching?
Watch.
All right. So as you can see, this can be very complicated. That's why we don't use these kind of tenses, all right? Because they are very, very complex, and it's not common. Actually, nobody is going to say something like this, but in grammar, it can be possible. And then what is the agent? By
He.
And he as object, him, right? So again, look, it's kind of weird. It's a movie has been being watched by him. All right, that is the passive voice. That's why here, let's try not to use this type of structures because they can be very complex. And you can try to use only simple ideas or only use the present perfect, right? He has watched, for example, right? He has watched. But again, how do you realize that you're working with active voice or passive voice, Jose? Is that if it receives or gives the action. In this case, he had been watching is active. He is actively doing this. But this one, a movie, had been being watched by him, is passive because someone else, right, is doing that to that object. And in the second case, also, you are telling me, in other words, that someone ended the movie, but in which way? Ended like turned off the TV and they didn't let to watch that movie. So you can try to use one kind of object that receives the action better, Jose. For example, I'm going to help you with one sentence, this one over here. I'm going to use some names, all right? I'm going to say David. David turned off, right, sorry, the computer. All right, that one. How do you change that to, or actually to use the second example? Someone turned off the computer. What is the passive voice of that sentence, Jose? What do you think?
The computer was turned off by someone.
Okay, very good. Was turned off. And as we learned here, it's going to be just like that. Why? Because the rule says that if we have somebody or we don't know who did the action, we don't need the agent. All right,
Okay.
so it's only going to be like that. So again, this is all in all, Jose. If you believe that the movie is more important than him, then you say a movie had been being watched by him. In the first one, you believe that this movie is more important. And here you use the passive voice. I'm going to delete this one because you don't know who did it. And as you don't know who did it, you only say this object received the action, but I don't know the agent. All right, the agent, or we don't know the agent. The agent is not important, or we don't know it. All right, so those are the first two cases in which we use the passive voice, Jose. Do you have any questions about this? Let me know, please.
No questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to the next part. We still have some time. We're going to take advantage. We have two more. Well, actually, we have more. We're going to try to work with these two that I think are very important. Please, David, let's read these next two situations in which we use the passive voice.
Okay, teacher. We think the agent is not important or interesting. For example, our house is being painted. XGC company is painting our house. The agent is obvious. I am paid weekly. My company pays me weekly.
Thank you very much, David. So it's the same idea, right? I'm going to mark this again. This is the best option. Why? Because you don't need to mention this company, XYZ, right? XYZ. Because it's not important or it's not interesting. So if you believe that is not important or is not interesting, then use passive voice. And as you can see, you are not mentioning the agent. Our house is being painted. By whom or by what company? We don't know, or in this case, we know, but we believe it's not important to mention that or is not interesting. And when the agent is obvious, unpaid weekly is the best option. Why? Because it's obvious that your company, right, the place in which you work is going to pay you out. All right, so it's very similar to the other ones. So that's only for you to know. Let's keep reading, and this one is going to be for you, please, Fabiana. Let's read these two now.
Okay. When to use it? We are making general statements or announcements. Passengers are reminded to fasten their seatbelts. Act. The captain reminds passengers to fasten their seatbelts. The agent is everyone. The emergency services can be called by dialing 999. Act. The public can call the emergency services by dialing 999.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. The same logic. In the first one, right, this is the best option, and we know why. Sorry. This one over here, right? And why? Because this is a general statement or announcement. You don't need to say the captain reminds passengers to fasten their seatbelts. No, it's a general statement or announcement. So passengers are reminded to fasten their seatbelts. And here, the agent is everyone. Here, what is everyone? The public. So you don't say the public can call the emergency services. You can say that, but it's not necessary. So if it's everyone, if it's to everybody, you only say passive voice. And again, you don't need the agent. You are saying the way you're going to do it, but if you realize this is not the agent by dialing, that's not an agent. That's the way you do it. All right, so in this case, this is the best option. And finally, we're going to read one more, and I'm going to tell you which ones you are going to use for your example. And perhaps you're going to choose. And these two, yes, and we're going to do one last activity. Please, this is for you, Jose. Let's read both examples, please.
Okay, we are writing formal or scientific texts. Potassium was added and mixed in. The solution was heated to 80 grades and then allowed to cool. Act. The technical added potassium and mixed it in. The technical heated the solution to 80 grades and then allowed it to cool. We want to avoid responsibility for our own actions, typically found in government reports. Mistakes were made and unfortunately never rectified. The Prime Minister made mistakes and unfortunately never rectified them.
Thank you very much, Jose. So we're going to work with these words, please. This is going to be potassium. All right, let's repeat, please. Potassium.
Potassium.
Good. This is 80 degrees Celsius. Degrees
Degree
Celsius.
Celsius.
Okay, very good. And this is heated, right?
Heated.
There you go. That's it, Jose. Thank you very much. Great. I think these are two very interesting examples. The previous ones were okay, but this is actually the one or the two situations in which you're going to use passive voice. Formal writing, scientific texts. This is very important. And to avoid responsibility, that's also very common. So let's work with these two, please, to finish. We're not going to work with these other ones because I believe that they are repetitive and we don't need to go to them again. All right. If you want, you can work with one of those previous ones. But what I prefer to do is to work with these two. So the instruction is going to be the following, please. Sorry, this is not the one. Go to the file and write two, all right? Only two examples following these two situations, please. David, Jose, and Fabiana. The first situation, you are writing formally and with scientific text. And the second situation, you want to avoid responsibility for something. In both cases, you use passive voice with a specific context. All right, let's do it, please. We check that one, and with that, we're going to finish today's class. All right. In both examples, as you can see, you don't actually need to mention the agent, right? You can do it and it's okay, all right? You can mention the agent, but it's like not necessary. It says, right, potassium was added and mixed in, period. The solution was heated to 80, right, degrees Celsius and then allowed to cool. So we don't say who did it. We don't mention the agent. We are just talking about the process. You can mention the agent if you believe it's important. If not, don't do it, right? This is for scientific text or simply formal writing. It doesn't have to be scientific, but it has to be formal. And then to avoid responsibility, it's always related to accidents. It's always related to mistakes, to something unfortunate, right? So Try to give an example in the second case about something that was wrong, something that was incorrect, but you don't want to mention who did it. Okay, because it's your own responsibility, or you don't want to mention, all right, the person who really did it. Those are the two cases, all right? So formal writing, and to avoid responsibility or not to blame someone for something bad that happened. So I'm going to see how you're doing, and we're going to try to check. Okay, and to be clear, remember, we are using passive voice. Okay, be careful with that one. You don't need the second part. If you take a look at my screen, no, don't work with this one. You're working with what's underlined, right? Subrayado, which is underlined. And if you analyze, potassium, subject, was the verb to be in the simple past, added the main verb in the past participle, and mixed the verb in the past participle. That's it. That's one sentence, but it has to be in passive voice. Don't use other tenses, all right? Don't do other things. This is only passive voice. The things that you were saying, right? A car was bought, that's passive voice. A book was read, that's passive voice. A computer was turned off, that's passive voice. The only thing is that here you have to be formal in your writing. And you can say, I don't know, like following these examples, right? And the experiments were made. That's passive voice, okay? The subjects were put into, I don't know, observation. That's passive voice in scientific context, okay? Only use passive voice. That's the only thing you have to do. Use passive voice. The second part is also mistakes. That's the subject in plural. Where, that's the verb to be in the simple past. Made, that's the past participle of the main verb. That's it. All of that and only that is passive voice. Mistakes were made. And the next part is only complement. And unfortunately, never rectified. That's it. Okay, so again, we're only working with passive voice. Subject, the verb to be in any tense, the main verb in the past participle, and the complement. Okay, we're still working with this formula. We're not doing anything else. Subject, be, main verb, and the complement. And you don't need the agents necessarily. All right, so David, let's start with you, please. Let's read your two examples, and then you explain why you believe they are part of each category, please.
Okay, teacher. The virus was contained by an antivirus agent in the lab. The second one is kills were committed and justice never appeared.
Very good. I agree with both. I think that they are very well done. But again, in your own words, why you believe the first one is part of the formal writing and why you believe that the second one is part of avoiding responsibility. What do you say?
Maybe the first one is because it talks about a lab contained, maybe it's talking about a scientific topic and talks about a virus and antivirus in a lab. I think stuff like that needs to be, yes. And the second one is it's like when, like in the example before, it says that a responsibility that is avoided, and then I put kills were committed, and justice never appeared.
Exactly. And you're not mentioning who committed those kills, right? Even though perhaps you know, you didn't mention because you're not blaming or you're not taking responsibility for those kills, right? You're mentioning the agent, and that's why. Okay, I agree with both, David. Do you have any questions about passive voice in general?
No, maybe teacher, this is the best way to write it, maybe in books or in stories or something like that.
You're telling me the passive voice, if it's the best way to write?
Yes.
Okay, actually, you know, it depends on the type of book that you're writing. For example, in A13, we write essays, and these are persuasive essays. With persuasive essays, it's not recommendable to use passive voice because with persuasive essays, you need, for example, to be convincing, persuasive. And the best way to be persuasive is to talk about the agent and who does the action. All right. In that case, active voice is the best option, and it's formal writing. But in some other types of essays and some kinds of books, for example, with narrative literature, the passive voice could be a good option. But again, sometimes only for scientific or write articles, magazines, for very formal writing in which the passive voice is the best option. Yes, it is. But I can say that in general, a mixture of both is the best thing that you can do. In a book, all right? In a book, if you want to put emphasis on the doer of the action, use active voice because it's also formal. But if your idea wants to transmit that the receiver of the action is more important, then use passive voice. So a mixture of both is the best thing that you can do. Not only use one because that would be weird.
Okay, teacher.
Okay?
That
Okay.
depends on the book. No?
Exactly. Okay. Thank you very much, David. Great. I'm going now with you, Jose. Let's try to read what you got and we're going to work together.
Okay, I just wrote one sentence because I didn't understand the second part.
Okay, let's read that one, please.
The chemical was used to make more solution and create a vaccine.
Okay, a vaccine. Okay, I agree with this one. I think it's a very good example. Now, when you talk about solution, are you talking about something that is part of that chemical, or you're talking about a solution in general?
Part of chemical.
Okay, okay. I agree with that one then. The second one, Jose, to make it clear, and you can write an example now if you want, is in this example over here, it says, right, mistakes were made and unfortunately never rectified. Only until this part, mistakes were made. You are not mentioning the agent, right? You are not saying who made those mistakes. So that's why, and that's when you use the passive voice. When you don't want to say who made those mistakes. And in the example of David, if you take a look at his example over here, it says kills were committed. And of course, you're not saying who killed, all right? You're not saying who killed. So in the second case is when you want to avoid responsibility or when you don't want to say who did that action because it was a bad action, it was something bad or very bad, and you don't want to mention who did it. You only mention the bad thing. Kills were committed or mistakes were made. All right. Try to think of one example like that, Jose. And if not now, I'm going to check it next class. All right. But do you have any questions related to passive voice in general? Try to write that example and try to tell me in speaking, Jose. What example can you give me with that? You're saying graffitis? Okay.
Graffitis was erased.
Okay, as this is something negative, try to make it negative, because if it was erased, it was something positive, right? And you
Okay.
can say,
Here could be the people wasn't see who made it.
oh, you don't need to give an explanation, actually. You can say graffitis, as graffitis is plural, instead of wasn't, you're going to say weren't, right? Graffitis weren't erased. You can say that in general, all right, exactly. And you can make a correction for this one as well. Okay, good. And nobody did, you can say that one, right? And nobody did anything or nothing, you can say over there.
Nobody did anything.
Anything. Okay. There you go, right? So in that way, you are not saying who didn't, all right? Erase that one. It's just something bad that didn't happen, but you are saying that anyway. All right. Do you have any questions about that, Jose? Let me know, please.
Okay.
No questions, right? Okay. Thank you very much. And finally, with you, please, Fabiana, let's finish up with your two ideas.
Okay. A chocolate was broken and melted. Then it was added and mixed in the recipe. The streets have never been repaired and happened many accidents.
Okay, very good. Just this one is going to be the recipe. All right, the recipe. And this one, great. You're working with what we were learning, sorry. But remember that after then you need one comma, because that's going to be the introductory phrase. Okay, good. Was broken and melted, was added and mixed. Very good. Streets have never been repaired and happened many accidents, but in this case, this is another subject. So the subject has to be first. And many accidents happened. All right, because this is the passive voice. And then this is one part of the consequence, but it's something different. So many accidents is the subject, and happened is what happened before. All right. There you go. I don't know now if you have any questions related to that. They're still considered this as a mistake. Okay, now this is interesting. Do you remember when to use the simple past and when to use the present perfect? This mistake is related to that. What do you say, Fabiana, to finish the class? Do you remember the difference between the simple past and the present perfect?
Maybe the form of the verb and we add a have.
Exactly. But what about the context? Because if you realize here, if you say happened, it's not incorrect. But here Google is being more demanding. Remember that the simple past is considered the definite past. So we know when happened. But in this case, we don't know when it happened. And what is the indefinite past? The present perfect, right? That's why in this case, Google is telling you to use have happened. Why? Because you don't know when it exactly happened. You don't have yesterday, you don't have in 1982, you don't have last week, all right? So anytime that you don't know when it happened or you're not mentioning that, instead of the passive or the simple past, they are going to ask you to use the present perfect, all right? Just that one, but it's part of something different. And also because of your main sentence is part of the present perfect. Right? So it's better to keep the same tense as well. And that's the second explanation. Good. Any questions related to that, Fabiana? Let me know, please. All right. Very good. So that's going to be it. Just in time. We are in 7:40. As always, let's complete the survey, please. As soon as you do it, you may leave the class. I'm going to be waiting for you tomorrow to have the conversation. Have a great night and see you tomorrow, guys. Take care. Have a good night.
Thanks, teacher.
Good
Bye.
night, teacher. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night. See you.